My name is Tim Jones, or so Witness Relocation would have you believe. Feel free to use that one, Dan. So anger is a pest. How many of you have ever had trouble with anger? Raise your hand. Okay, if you don't have your hand up, you have a problem with credibility, okay? But depending on what home you grew up in is a big factor. If people were controlled in your family, then you don't have as much problem. If people raged in your family, as in mine. My dad, I would say, was a raging man. It's what he learned. And so you learn, if you make it to adulthood, you have to know with these people where the danger zone is. With my mother was at this general level of irritation with all of us. So she was predictable. My dad would be like, smiley, smiley, calm, calm, calm. Suddenly, Hiroshima. I'm like, wow, where did that come from? So I quickly learned with my dad, the first set of warnings you got was he gradually ascended the volume staircase. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty obvious. You know, like, Tim, you need to go out to the garage and do the ba-da-ba-da-ba. Well, I had a comeback for that. So, was my witty comeback, and my dad, I said, you need to get out the garage. Okay, we're going up the volume staircase. Then, look, I am not going to tell you again. I'm like, oh, I think we're at the top of the steps now. But we're not quite. I still have a witty comeback. What can I do? I've got a witty. So, then I would hear my dad's jaw come out. You didn't have to be looking at him. I am not going to say it again. Oh, his jaw's out. So now, roll the dice. I have one more witty thing to say that I think everyone will find enjoyable. But hit the jaw's out. So, feeling lucky today, punk? So like, I got stuff. So, and then this would happen. Look, I am not, if I have to, you. And I'm like, okay, now destruction is nigh. Just start running, because my dad he would put up a lot of things. He was not going to tolerate one of his kids wrecking his sentence construction, because you get the choppy sentences just start. Oh, he's got the choppy sentences. No! And that's how you survive. Then he would just come in flailing into a room, wherever you were. It was his favorite means of just the flailing. I think it was so it wouldn't hurt that badly. I don't know what the deal was. He looked like an octopus hooked up to jumper cables. So help me. Innocent bystanders would get whacked by my dad's hands flailing across the room. But that's how I made it to adulthood, was figuring out exactly what that was. Anger is something that hits all of us. It messes you up, messes others up. It is, I heard one psychologist call it the corrosive of the soul. So we didn't even get to others yet. This is what it does to you. Anger, especially when it lingers. And when anger lingers, it becomes bitterness. Bitterness is anger that's been laying around too long in those puddles and starting to congeal and turn really odorous in your life. That will mess up your health. You will not be as healthy if you don't let go of that. It is more corrosive than stress. It is more corrosive than physical exertion. It is bad for you. Not to mention those other people in your path. Those other people, your kids, your spouse, your friends, everyone suffers if you don't learn how to use the brakes on anger. There it is. So let's dive further into this. Here's some proverbs that we kind of state the obvious, but not quite. A hot-tempered man stirs up strife, but he who is slow to anger quiets contention. Now, the difference between these two people is not anger versus non-anger. They both are angry. Do you see that? But one is explosive. And but a wise man keeps his anger under control. Controlled anger is what you see here. So what I've discovered is people with anger troubles don't ever quite take it seriously enough. And that's really the problem. Good news, if you have trouble with rage, if you blow up from time to time, there's good news and bad news. And they're kind of both bad news. Okay. The good news is anger is a socially acceptable thing. You can tell them, I got trouble with anger. Oh, dude, preach it. Yeah, high five you, because I got that too. And you can just breezily admit that that's a problem with your life, and people are like, what are you going to do? Because it's a socially acceptable sin, not to God, but in our society. This changes from era to era, okay? It used to be you could say, my dad's era, you could say, I have trouble with people of other races. Yeah, man, yeah. And you could actually say that out loud, happily, gladly, thankfully. That is no longer an acceptable thing to say in most circles. You don't say that. Nowadays, you wouldn't say, yeah, I've got it mostly together. I have trouble with homicide, but, You wouldn't say that. Sometimes pedophilia, like, oh, God, no, get out, no, unacceptable. But if you say I have trouble with anger, it's socially acceptable. Like, yeah, I know what you mean, man. We're rascals, aren't we? So you need to take it more seriously. So a better picture of anger would be this horrible story I'm about to tell you. A lady named Saren, I believe was her name. So, but her and her hipster boyfriend were, they were into the coffee shops and everything, and walking down the artsy section of what the city they lived in. And they thought, it'd be great if we got a python. Let's get a python. That'll be so cool. Why would it be so cool? Because we get to walk around and look cool holding the python. So this big yellow python, she'd wear her black leather jacket and all wrapped around like, oh my gosh, look at that python. And they fed off the fact that everyone was like, oh wow, that's so cool to have the python. Where did they keep it? They kept it at night, they said. Later on, it was revealed in court. So you can see where this is going. Well, we kept it in a cloth bag. It was cinched at the top, like this is where you kept it. Yeah. They're doing prison time now because their python, they woke up the next morning, it was wrapped around the 2-year-old baby. Yeah. So that's horrible. I told you it was a horrible story. But the worst part is yet to come. The worst part, in court, they said, well, where were you? Is this a proper thing to keep it in the cloth sack? Well, we thought it was. Had it ever gotten out before? Yeah. How many times? Probably about 10 times. Like, wait. 10, everyone understands mistakes occasionally. 10 times this thing has gotten out, and you did nothing. You did not feel the need to upgrade the containment of this beast until a death occurs. And this is how to approach anger. It's not a cute sin. It's a python that will kill. Will certainly kill friendships. Will kill relationships. Will kill romances. Will kill marriages. It will kill. So you need to learn very quickly on how do I contain this beast, this destructive beast within me. So let's look at some more Proverbs here. There's some basic fact. You could spend hours on this topic, so I'm just going to cover some things quickly. John Chrysostom. First of all, I want you to know that I'm able to quote people from the 4th century. I want you to like me. You see how impressive that is? Anyway, it's okay. First of all, it's okay to have the anger. That's not the issue here. The Bible doesn't say no anger. The Bible says slow anger. Not no anger, but slow anger. There are some things you should be mad about. Yeah. And John Chrysostom said, I don't remember what he said. So, okay. He who is not angry, whereas he has cause to be, sins. If you're not angry when you need to be, that's a sin. For unreasonable patience is the hotbed of many vices. It fosters negligence and blah, blah, blah. I made my point. Okay. And I quoted John Chrysostom. Okay. So, but there's something you need to be, and there's something wrong with you if you're not angry in some areas. What do you do with it? Okay. So it's a God-given thing, but you have to control it. It's one of the 7 deadly sins. That's not in the Bible, but it still is one of the 7. I'm wondering when they're going to have a wrath parade. We got pride, so I'm wondering if we're going to go through all the 7 deadly sins. Like the sloth parade, they just won't show up. I don't want to get off myself. All right, I'm sorry, that was an irrelevant little side alley. All right, but here's some quick things from Jesus. Matthew 18, if your brother or sister sins against you, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. So, episode 1 is somebody's done something to me. Now, here's where Christians mess up a lot. It's like, I don't like that he said that. That hurt my feelings. First of all, if you're a man, it never feels manly to say, someone hurt my feelings. I can't even say it manly. I don't even have a manly delivery of it. It hurt my feelings. So you don't want to say it. So you have to get mad. And this is what many men are trained to do. Anger is the manly emotion. God didn't say that. But that's what our society says. So if you're sad, you get mad. If you're hurt, you get mad. If you're afraid, you get mad. You turn everything into anger because that's the manly way to go. That's not what God says. So the first one is someone sins against you. You go to them privately, one-on-one. Say, listen, last week you made this statement and made me feel a certain kind of way. So if you can, and that usually ends up, in my experience, I didn't realize that. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Usually ends up well if you do that. But what we'd prefer to do, I'm not going to say anything. I'll be bigger than that. And then you complain to other people. Yeah, I don't like that guy. Yeah, that's not what Jesus said. Get on the phone and tell some people what went on with that person. That's not what he said. Or a very common one, just bottle it down. And then when you're around that person, make snippy little remarks. Do the passive-aggressive route. Like, I guess what was that supposed to mean? Oh, no. I'm bigger than that. No, you're not bigger than that. You're doing it wrong. Jesus said don't do that. If someone sins against you, you go to them in private. I would rather yell at them in a crowded room. Well, it doesn't matter what you'd rather do, with the Lord. That's what he said to do. It's so simple and yet so difficult. The other fact is, if you are offering your gift there at the altar, which was the holiest moment in a Jew's life, you can't get holier than being at the temple offering a gift on an animal, some hapless beast that has to suffer for you. That doesn't get any holier than that. So Jesus, in one of many moments where he's absolutely jaw-dropping radical for his day, says, end that holy process. What? You can't interrupt that holy thing. There's something more important. If you feel like you've hurt someone, drop the animal and go make peace with your brother. Then come back and offer a gift. Yeah, but that's the holy moment. There's something holier. Somebody has something against you. So both those things are covered there. Astoundingly easy to read and to recite to yourself. Somehow hideously difficult to actually carry out. So that's the first rules of anger here. Let's get those out of the way. If you hurt or if someone hurts you. Now we come to, so we need to learn how do I handle the anger. A counselor friend of mine said, anger is what you feel when someone tramples something precious to you. That's a good way of looking at it. And there should be an emotional reaction. This is precious to me. You trampled on it, so now I'm mad. Okay, but how you deal with it, how you handle, how you manage that anger. So let's turn to a story in the Bible, one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite people, Abigail. And we come to 1 Samuel 25. A certain man in Maon who had property there at Carmel was very wealthy. And if someone's asking how wealthy was he had 1,000 goats and 3,000 sheep. Oh, yeah. Which he was shearing in Carmel, which is the pinnacle of the livestock year, was shearing day when you get to know how absolutely rich you are. His name was Nabal, and his wife's name was Abigail. She was an intelligent and beautiful woman, as we'll come to find out. But her husband was surly and mean in his dealings. He was a Calebite. That just means he was from the clan of Caleb. It does sound like an extra. He was a Calebite. Oh, that's how bad he was. Whoa. That's not what that means. But it does sound like that. So, if nothing else, this is a little picture into how obnoxious the arranged marriages were back in that day. Here's this woman, intelligent, beautiful, married to a jackass. Plain and simple. If that's your situation this morning, perk up and listen closely. Guys, look if your wife's grabbing a pen at this point. It's not a good sign. 1 Samuel. So David says, this is what David says to his men. Hey, we saw these herds out. It was that guy Nabal. We're hungry. We're out in the loose here. 600 men. Just Saul won't give up his throne. David's already been anointed king, but him and his 600 men. So they send message to Nabal. You're a rich guy. Come on. I hear it's sheep shearing time. Happy day. When your shepherds were with us, we did not mistreat them. And the whole time they were at Carmel, nothing of theirs was missing. We protected their flock, in other words. So, ask your own servants if they will tell you. They'll back me up on this. Therefore, be favorable toward my men, since we come at a festive time. Please give your servants and your son David whatever you can find for them. If you got some extra food, we'd greatly appreciate it. When David's men arrived, they gave Nabal this message in David's name. Then they waited. So we're thinking, hey, come on, we protected your flock. Come on. So they waited. Then Nabal answers this. Nabal answers David's servants. who's this David? Like, do you really not know who he is? Who is this son of Jesse? Okay, you clearly know who he is. Everyone in Israel knows about him. Many servants are breaking away from their masters. I don't know what's going on here. Why should I take my bread and water and the meat I've slaughtered for my shears and give it to men come from who knows where? I don't know where these guys are from. So, yeah, that's jackass behavior. All right. It's rude. It's insulting. It's like, why should I help you? Well, you're super rich and we helped you. So there's that. So what Nabal is guilty of is being a jerk. And to use the Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew, he was being a jerk is what he was being. Not a death penalty, okay, for being a jerk, or how many of us would still be here? David's men they're like, okay, he's not going to like that. So they go back. When they arrive, they report every word to David. And you can see the transformation of David, who was a man after God's own heart. But he had trouble with his temper. David was like, really? Yeah. That's what he said. And suddenly you see his nostrils start to flare, starting to quiver with rage, and capillaries pop out in his forehead. Like, boys, strap on your swords. I'm like, oh, it's go time. Strap on your swords. About 400 men went up with David while the 200 stayed with supplies. Now, if you're not looking deeply in the story, you might find yourself starting to cheer. Oh boy, it's about to get real up in here. It's about to turn into an exciting story. David's going to be like, hold on a second. Wait a second. The guy was rude. Should there be a death penalty for rudeness? I want to say to people who get involved in road rage, the guy cut you off is not worth killing him. There should not be a death penalty for rudeness. But David says, may God deal with David, be it ever so severely, if by morning I leave alive one male of all who belong to him. Common phrase back then. God never took it seriously. They're all going to die. We're talking like probably at least 100 guys. You were rude to me, I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to kill all the guys who work with you. All the husbands who work with you, all the sons who work with you, all the brothers who work with you. They're all going to die. I'm like, okay, we might have a bit of an overcorrection here. You think? I'm hoping everyone in the room agrees, yeah, that's kind of overdoing. The punishment doesn't fit the crime. Yes, he was rude, but come on. So we have a snarling, angry man. What do you do with a snarling, raging, in this case, acting like an idiot, David? What do you do there? Enter Abigail, who is very intelligent and very beautiful. So Abigail comes to him, and she hears the word. Yeah, it doesn't look good. They're coming. We delivered the message. They're coming with swords. Ooh. So Abigail's got to do something quick. So Abigail was beautiful and wise. There it is. So she goes to David with this big long train of donkeys holding, all these loaves of bread and all the meat and fruits and dates and raisins and so on and so forth. She comes with this big long train of donkeys and says, pay no attention to my husband, to that wicked man Nabal. He's just like his name. His name means fool. I did fact check that. His name means fool. So if you wonder, how did this guy get to be so mean? Well, when you name your kid moron, which is what that is, like, wow, he's had some rough dealings in his life. He's probably been in a fight or two. You also have to wonder about the caliber of the parents who named their kid moron. Hey, moron, come on in for supper. Wow, that does put a dent in a child's self-esteem, doesn't it? So now I almost want to give Nabal a hug at this point, dude. Folly goes with it. Wait, back it up. Folly, don't listen to him. If your wife is saying this about you, he's a fool. Yeah, don't listen to him. As for me, your servant, I wasn't there when your men came and delivered the message. So we want to make this up to you. So here's the long train of donkeys. Oh, this is great. And now she continues. So here now, Abigail is wielding pure genius here in dealing with how to get the raging person off the ledge. For you, if you have trouble with rage, how do you get yourself in it? Listen to the wisdom of Abigail. Wives, pay careful attention, because this is a full-on, multi-leveled scold. It doesn't sound like a scold, though. There is the genius. Ladies, sometimes you may need to scold. If you can work the art of not sounding like a scold, you're on some Abigail levels here. Okay, so the first thing she says to him, he's a fool. Do you really want to lower yourself to him? Do you want to be even with a horrible person? Because that's David's. Don't get mad, get even. It's like, do you want to be even with this big of a jerk? Is that what you want here? So that's the first question she asked him, but it sounds kind of loving the way she's saying it. But that's the message there. Do you really want to get out? I'm getting even. Then you're at their level. Okay, so we move on. Please forgive your servant's presumption. The Lord your God will certainly make a lasting dynasty for my Lord, you, David, because you fight the Lord's battles, and no wrongdoing will be found in you as long as you live. Hint, hint. He's about to do something very ungodly. She's like, no, really. Because I know this about you, David. You fight the Lord's battles. Like, yeah. Would this be one of the Lord's battles? Kill 100 guys because somebody was rude? No, this wouldn't be. So the second question to ask yourself from the wisdom of Abigail, is this really the Lord's battle? Yeah. Okay, when you're blowing up, everything sounds like the Lord's battle. No, this is about right and wrong. This is about like, shut up. Okay. It's not near as often. This is righteous anger. No, it's not righteous. It usually is not. It very rarely is. Or is it just ego? Is it just hurt feelings? Is it humiliation? I want to punch that person. And because it's righteous, justice, and you name all these wonderful sounding words that don't apply here. Come on. He hurt your feelings. Yeah, that's what it was. So, really? So, is this the Lord's battle? This is not the Lord's battle. Okay, she continues on. When the Lord has fulfilled for my Lord every good thing he promised concerning him and has appointed him ruler over Israel, because we all know that's coming. You're going to be king, David. My Lord will not have on his conscience the staggering burden of needless bloodshed or having avenged himself. And when the Lord your God has brought my Lord success, remember me. Okay. But here's the final thing she says is, do you really want this on your story? Think about this. Take enough time. Stop your raging and stop thinking, do I want this to be a part of my story? Because she says to David, the story, you're going to rise. Do you really want this on your resume? I don't think you do. Again, what an artful scold that is. Do you want this? What story would you, yeah. So to summarize her whole speech is, you're better than that, David. Come on. You're better than that. All right, let me jump back there one more time. Do you want, when you're telling your fellow Christians, there's one, like, I'm about to go ballistic. Okay, now stop. How are you going to describe this to your Christian brothers and sisters next day at church? I say this because this has stopped me in my tracks a time or two. Like, okay, I'm doing this. And calmer voices in my head are trying to advise, no, I'm doing this. And then I remember this voice saying, so your boys, your accountability guys, what words will you use? Go over the wording that you're going to give them this episode. Well, when you put it that way, sheesh. Well, because sometimes thoughts, when they stay inside your head in the darkness of your brain, they sound okay. It's like, that sounds reasonable. Then you say them out loud. Well, now that they've seen the light of day, that sounds really bad, doesn't it? Yeah, it does sound really bad because it is bad, okay? So think about this. Is this really how you want your story to go? No, I kind of don't. Yeah, even though, she continues, even though someone is pursuing you to take your life, the life of my Lord, and beautiful poetry, the life of my Lord will be bound securely in the bundle of the living by the Lord your God. Who do you trust? Who do you trust, David? And that's the final question. Who are you trusting here? I got to take matters in my own hand. Who do you trust? Because if you trust God, he's very clear on this point. He said both in the Old Testament and quoted again in the New Testament, vengeance is mine. If you want to get back that person, you're doing my job. Get out of my turf. This does not belong to you. This is not your area. You don't belong down this corridor. This is not you. This is me. I am the one. And this is what Abigail says to him. You are contained. Let's jump back to that. You are bound securely in the bundle of the living by the Lord your God. But the lives of your enemies, he will hurl away as from a, let me think of a weapon that would apply here. Oh, I'm talking to David. How about a sling? He will fling them away like a sling. That's good. She's good. Isn't she good? Yeah, she's good. Because she mentioned that, and she's beautiful. Wow. So, hardly ever in Scripture do they mention how good-looking someone was. This is one of those times. So this is the question you have to ask yourself these questions when you're about to blow up. So that's the question she gives to David. And finally, she also demonstrates, the bigger picture is that long line of donkeys. Who's this for? It's for the guy who's going to kill my husband and all his men. Every guy on the farm we have. All the farm hands, he's going to kill them. So why are you giving him all this stuff? Because Abigail is a godly enough woman to anticipate and to know the ways of God 1,000 years before Jesus said it. And we have no excuse because we're now 2,000 years past when Jesus said it. And Jesus said very clearly, but to you who have ears to hear, I say, love your enemies. Seriously? I have to love them? Don't panic. That's not talking about your feelings. Listen closely and let this wash over you. God never in Scriptures ever commands us to feel anything. Because I don't feel like it. God's like, that's irrelevant. It's irrelevant how you feel. This is what you need to. So don't picture little pink cartoon hearts coming around. I love my enemy. That's not how it's going to work. You love them by what you do. You do good to those who hate you. You bless those who curse you. You pray for those who mistreat you. Why would I want to do that? Well, reason number one, your Lord just said you did. So it doesn't matter if you can come up with any backup reason to prop that up. He said it. But Paul does what I call the double dip. I love it when a scripture is mentioned and then somebody else in Scripture quotes that scripture. That's a double dip. There are some triple dips in there too. But on the contrary, Paul quotes Proverbs. If your enemy is hungry, what do? You feed him. Wait, what? If he's thirsty, what do? You give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Now, there's a little part of there where you start to get all like, oh, that's better revenge. That's not where you're supposed to be thinking. Okay. Well, I can cause more pain. Wait a second. So scholars don't really know. You're going to get varying theories on what that means, burning coals in the head. If somebody's carrying a metal tray, which often people were, you put burning coals, that's going to be uncomfortable. They're going to get red and sweaty. Okay, sure. So maybe, if you do something kind to them, they'll get red and sweaty. They'll feel uncomfortable. And that's certainly true. I like it better because when it was written back in Proverbs, this was very common battle practice if you're into ancient history. When Paul repeated this 1,000 or so years later, also very common practice. So the enemy comes to your walls. We want to penetrate. We want to get inside your walls and destroy you. This is our plan. This is our strategy. We worked it out back there. We're going to come into your walls. If you're inside the walls, you're not very fond of that plan. I can't say I like your plan at all. I don't like it. You coming in here and destroying all of us. We're not into that. So you want to thwart. That's their strategy, though. So you want to hamper their strategy. So if you're up on the walls and those guys are trying to prop up ladders to get inside your walls, you need to stop them. So you start dumping things down on them. Rocks and boulders would be the most accessible thing. That knocks down maybe the first wave. Then you start heating things up. Now, contrary to popular belief, the hot oil thing is really mostly a myth because oil's really expensive. You don't want to waste it. Hot water. What's wrong with some hot water? Pour hot water on them. Well, that's off-putting. Yeah, that's a fine how do you do. How about hot sand? Big pans of sand, heat, blazing hot sand was a very common thing. Gets down in their arm, and they're weighing them down and burning them and so on and so forth. But then when you run out of stuff to heat, you take the burning coals, and that's your last line. Boom, dump it down on the burning coals. Hit the helmets and bounce into 1,000 more little hot red things that are getting into people's armor and everything. Because why? I want to thwart your strategy. Your plan, this person who has violated against me, your plan is to come at me with rage. I need to dismantle your strategy. How do I do that? Do this. Do the exact opposite of what they want. You come back at them with kindness. Because here's how those kind of people work. I'm going to blaze at you, and I'm going to expect you're going to roll over, be a doormat, and say, yes, okay, whatever you want to do. And then I feel empowered. Ha ha! I have mastery over you. Or they're going to blaze at you, and you're going to blaze back. Ha ha! See? Look at what idiots they are. They're blazing their anger back at me. I've brought them down to my level. I win. I get the power there. How do you manage this so that person doesn't have the power? Here's how you change the power dynamic. Because you're, really? You hate me? Okay, here's some food for you. Wait, what? Suddenly they've got nothing. So there are backup reasons, but you shouldn't obey things because they have backup reasons. But there are backup reasons for there. You do your part. Let God worry about the other guy. He said that. Okay. And in this story, nice, tidy ending. Samuel 25:30. About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal and he died. The Lord struck. Well, that worked out, didn't it? They're not always going to work out that way. Okay. But in this case, nice, tidy ending. Yeah, like, well, there. So, David, it's not on your resume. You did not cause unnecessary bloodshed this time. But 10 days later, you struck Nabal and he died. That's what God said. Vengeance is mine. I will take care of it. In 10 days? No, that is absolutely, definitely not a promise. Okay. But I will take care of it. You stay out of this, not your problem. And then, to further the loveliness of this story, Nabal dies. David gets wind of that. Wait, the hot chick is a widow now? So his servants went to Carmel and said to Abigail, David has sent us to take you to become his wife. And this is how deeply affectionate she was to her previous husband. Okay, she does. She says, like, you don't want to mull that over for 30? Nah, we're good. Yep. So to review this story, Nabal, anger for good. Why? We were just being good to you and you gave us anger. Why? David, anger for anger, our normal sentiment. Abigail, I'm going to give kindness for anger. Kindness for anger. And that's what happened. And David recognized, oh, this one's a keeper. And so she became his wife. And, of course, they lived happily ever after. The end. Maybe until he takes her to his home where he meets Ahinoam, his first wife, and Michal's waiting in the wings. Wait a second, what? Who's his second wife? I don't know how long this happiness went on, but the point being, none of that is the point. The point being, think of if you want to thwart your enemy, someone who has set themselves up against you, you need to do what Jesus says and say, I'm going to give. You're going to feel anger. You can own that. Okay, like I said. It'd be a sin if you didn't feel anger at times, but you need to slow it down, and this is your strategy. Learn to respond in kindness. Andy Stanley tells the story of him and his wife were working with this lady who had a big house, and she was failing health, and she needed to go into another facility. There was a guy who was kind of a vagrant, but he was helping out. He helped them out with the garage sale, who was being very helpful. And he took up residence in the house while she was still in there. And then when they cleared everything out, this guy wouldn't leave. His name was Roger. And Roger, we're selling the house now. Yeah, I'm staying here. Like, you can't stay here because we're selling the house. No, I'm staying. She said I could stay here. Well, she doesn't live here anymore. Back and forth it went. So Roger would not leave. So Andy Stanley says him and his wife sat down and came up with, he said, I'm not real proud of some of the solutions we came up. This guy is being an absolute jerk. We need to do. He said, I don't want to go into detail, but one of them involved a pesticide dispenser guy, exterminator, I guess, spraying into the guy's room. I'm not real proud of that one. He said we came up with some bad ideas for how to really stick it to this guy. He said, so in the midst of this, the guy would just be angry, rude to his wife, insulting to his wife when she called him. And he's like, so my husband prickles are up. I want to lay low this guy. So he said he came home one day, and he said, oh, I smell muffins cooking. He goes out the kitchen, and he's like, oh, you got muffins going. She goes, yeah. He's like, when are they going to be ready? Well, they're not for you. Oh, come on, man. He's like, well, who are they for? They're for Roger. Wait, what? They're Roger, the guy in that? Yeah. She goes, I realized I had to do this. we were trying to think of all the things to do to Roger. I need to do something for Roger. And so I'm making these muffins for Roger. We're changing approaches. It's like, okay. And within a few days, Roger moved out. Okay, sometimes you see the ending, the good ending. This is what happened in our neighborhood. We moved to Cincinnati, and there's a guy 2 houses up from us. We called him Kentucky Larry because he talked like this. He's from Kentucky, Appalachian. So the only conversation I remember having, like the first week, we stood out in front of our house, and he was telling me about hardware stores in the area he liked. I'm like, this is kind of a boring topic for me, but I'll be polite and shake my head. That's the last conversation I remember having with Larry. But he found out we were with Block Ministries, which was a Christian-based thing, and that's where the war began. Larry was like, those people. I'm like, I wish I had shared Jesus with you so I could get points for, righteous persecution. I can't even get that. You've deprived me of that joy. So, but he found out, so every time he would, every time anyone knew, he would talk to the neighbors and tell them, oh, Jesus freaks down there. People would move into the neighborhood and like, do you know this guy Larry? He's really talking smack about you. Like, we can't figure Larry out. We don't know what's going on with him. He was talking to a guy in my organization, Block Ministries, out in front of his house, didn't know he was with Block, and we pull up in our van, and he goes, oh, conversation over. Sunday school's about to begin, because we pulled up. My friend's like, yeah, those are actually my friends. We work together. Oh, never mind. So we're like, gee, what is up with this guy? He would vigilantly look for anything to accuse him with. My dog was loose in my front yard. In my front yard, my dog was loose. He goes, hey, there's leash laws around here. I'm like, she's in my yard. So, yeah, but you're supposed to have her on a leash. Well, she's in my yard. So, there's that little matter if you want to try to call the cops. So I was maybe getting a little belligerent there. Another time, my vehicle we parked in our driveway was like 2 inches over into the sidewalk, and he made a big fuss about that. Like, dude, what is your issue? One time, the tower came, one of our many long line of dead vehicles, came and put the dead vehicle in front of our house, but the way the tower did it, he did it backwards, so there was opposing traffic. And it doesn't matter, it doesn't hurt anyone. But Larry called it in 2 days in a row, we found out. We got a ticket 2 days in a row on the vehicle facing the wrong direction. Like, dude, seriously, my neighbor's surveillance cameras caught him. Our cat had wandered into his yard. Oh, no. What damage will incur here? And so he starts, in a rage, just starts throwing power tools at the cat, trying to kill the cat, also damaging his power tools, which gave me a little satisfaction. Throwing them, and the neighbors told him, he's trying to kill your cat. Like, what is this guy's problem? So then my wife came up with it. She's like, we need to start praying for some opportunity to be kind to Kentucky Larry. And my first thought was like, I don't feel like being kind to him. And then, dang it, the sermons come back to haunt you. Then I remembered, it doesn't matter how I feel. Dead-ended. Okay, so one time we saw Larry was trying to work his pickup truck into the driveway. It was apparently stalled. And me and my friend looked at each other and went, hey, you need help with that? We didn't wait for an answer, started pushing it. Kentucky Larry started looking a little uncomfortable. Last year, he moved, weirdly, half a block away. I don't know if it was because of us, but he did. He moved half a block away. And so my wife, Lisa's looking out the porch, and she sees some guy, some local thug standing next to him, just like jawing at him and gyrating and clearly angry, and Larry's just trying to walk away. Larry's like in his late 60s. So Lisa's just watching with interest. Then suddenly the guy grabs him and puts his head in a headlock, and he's struggling. And then Lisa's like, hey! Yells from her porch. Hey! Comes out in the street. Hey! You put his head, you let go of him. The guy, hey, it's okay, lady. Man, we're friends. Like, you're not friends. Friends don't do headlocks, okay? That's not the case. And Larry, grateful to be there. Like, ooh, wow. Later, Lisa was called to testify in court as a witness to this assault that went on. Like, ooh. Now, this would be the perfect story and last week we baptized Kentucky Larry into Jesus. All right. It doesn't. It's ongoing. That's the point. You may not see. They're not all clear-cut endings like this one. You may not ever see. But what we know we must do is, instead of flying into a rage, I must extend kindness, because that completely nullifies your game. That you will not be expecting that, you angry person. And for yourself, if you have trouble, it's about the slow it down. Think of the damage. You've got that python. Do not let that python out. Here's my favorite illustration that I got from traffic school. Immediately laughter kicks up. And it gets worse. This was actually my third traffic school in 3 states. Now, let me explain. I have never been like, I'm going to speed. I don't care. I'm going 90. I've never had that thought. But what I have thought is, like, everyone else is going faster. I'm just going to regulate myself by everyone else and just not pay attention. And that is pretty much the beginning of all my horrible stories, is I wasn't paying attention. So, again, third traffic school in 3 states kind of says a lot. So, but there was when I had my moment of clarity. And this says, and I have not had one yet since, but in 10 years. But I realized, okay, there's this big pile of speeding tickets down over the hill, beyond the horizon. I can't see it. But they want to give these out. They want to charge you $160. They want to give that out. I don't want those. So people, here's this idiot zooming past me. Oh, good, you volunteered for the ticket. Thank you. You can take it. This person, I'm staying right here. I'm going the speed limit. Lock in the cruise control. And the people zooming past me, they're volunteering to take my tickets that were intended for me. Thank you, speeding person. You go on and do that. So when it comes to your anger, yeah, you can hurt people. You have that option. Why don't you just slow it down and I will let other idiots go into there. I will let the other idiots take it. This probably doesn't sound very Christ-like and loving for me to refer to people and say, I'll let the other individuals, out of control individuals, go ahead. If you want to do that, you can do that. I'm going to stay here in the slower lane. I'm going to slow it down and do things right. Why? Why do we love? Why am I doing any of this? Because he first loved us. Oh, there's that. Yeah. You think if somebody was torturing you, you think that would be a good time? A justification for raging. I'm being tortured right now. Instead, Jesus, while being tortured, said to those who did not ask for forgiveness, Father, forgive them. One of the most comforting words in Scripture to me. They have no idea what they're doing. Thank you. Thank you, Jesus, that you realize we're knuckleheads. Thank you for realizing we don't know what we're doing. Stuff I thought was godly activity 20 years ago. Like, why did I think that was ever good? Why? God, please hang on to that thought. We don't know what we're doing. We love because he first loved us. It's very simple. Let's pray.